Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Worth It Then, Worth It Now. A side category that we're experimenting with on this channel where I go back to games that I covered on the main channel, probably, a year or more removed, so as to shout them out, maybe when they're not necessarily part of popular zeitgeist, but when they're on a sale. I try and line it up with a sale, but it's just a good opportunity for me to shout out games that I think bang and you might be interested in. So today we're looking at This Is the Police. Not the most recent release, it came out in 2016. However, We Appy Studios, the guys that made this and its sequel and its spin-off Rebel Cops, have just released into early access their next game, Hollywood Animal, which I've covered on the main channel and, spoiler, it's excellent. If different, it's the movies doing like studio management of motion pictures, and you should go and check that video out and check the game out since it's kind of the hotness at the moment. But wouldn't you know it, We Appy has put all of its games on deep discount during this launch window. So at the time of this recording, at the time of this video going up, This Is the Police is going for like super deep sale, like 80% off. And as one of my favorite games in the last decade, like I have a real soft spot for this. It's very well constructed and well done. It's got some issues, especially in the late game, but for like $4 or $5, oh my god, it's an absolute no-brainer. So you should think of getting it, especially if you like Hollywood Animal. Now, what is This Is the Police? It's a melding of a narrative style which could only really be described now as We Appy's style, and a game mechanic which is running a police roster as the outgoing police chief of this town, Freeburg. Again, comparisons are heavy with Hollywood Animal because while that's a totally different genre, I suppose management has that in common to an extent, and that's much more robust, more complicated and rich. This is a little bit lighter, but they still share the component of a management sim of sorts married with a narrative. And it's just really fun and engaging. The entire rhythm from micro to mega loop, I don't know how else you want to look at it, but the entire package is just absorbing in its own unique way. So, as I said, you're like 60 something, you're this old police chief. All the voice acting is incredible, by the way. All these old industry veterans like John St. John, right? And it's kind of unusual but cool to see your protagonist being an old boy, and a lot of his antagonists are in the same age bracket, like the Sands, which is the local crime boss family. He's like the same age. The mayor, who's kind of kicking you out and he's a corrupt deal maker, he's an old boy as well. So it's an unusual twist, but it works really well because it plays it very straight. Like the main character, he narrates, he kind of waxes sardonic come poetic in a similar vein to something like Max Payne. So yeah, there is a fluidity to it, there is a romantic poetry, if you will, but it's all underpinned by a kind of bleak world view of a grumbling old boy. I don't know what category you would want to put it in, but I put it in the Max Payne-esque narrative category. And, without giving too much away, you're not exactly what you would call a crooked cop. One of the better police chiefs that have been well received and enjoyed. You're on your way out. You've been given 180 days notice. You want to make a nest egg of $500,000. You could do it legitimately, apparently, if you really play 100%. And through no fault of your own, you're kind of in bed with the mafia by having to cover for a close friend that got in too deep and got his family in trouble. So there's a lot of layers, a lot of nuance, not to forget your own personal family issues, you're having marital problems, etc. But the point is, you're now put into this situation where you're going to get shoulder tapped by criminals, political angles, that sort of stuff. There's going to be a lot of things trying to derail you from just being a straight above board good guy cop. But also remembering that you kind of want to get together a retirement nest egg. That's the prerogative, that's the morality of your character. So you have to figure out how you're going to go about that. So as far as gameplay plays out, it's pretty much just a little cute city map diorama played out from your office. You can put on, there's a whole bunch of cool little old-timey music hits and you can buy from the catalog. You just sort of got to embrace it. You can embrace the flavor that's going on here. You're role-playing as a 60-year-old dude that listens to music that your granddad listens to, and it's, it's a great change of pace. So you put on your music, you boot up the day, you have Shift A and Shift B that alternate, and you have rostered police officers and detectives. Pretty much their stat lines, apart from a profile pic and their name, consist of a professionalism score and like a tiredness rating. Now they do have hidden quirks and statistics, stuff that you can't necessarily see. Sometimes you will actually uncover them, like someone might be an alcoholic, but you don't necessarily know it. You might know it from their behavior. They're tired all the time and they don't turn up to work and etc. But sometimes you will actually uncover it legitimately and they'll get like a symbol on their character sheet. And the closest thing to a hint that the game gives you is that a professionalism of 150 is considered kind of average. So from there you come up with your own idiosyncratic system as how best to manage your roster and manage dispatches. So as the game plays out, you'll be called out to a sort of little placard, vignette, scenario, police call out. 911, this is an emergency. There's a naked dude running around the hardware house yelling and screaming expletives. We need you to send some people. So it'll give you a couple of slots. You put your dudes in there. You consider, like I said, your own system, how many points you want to commit on average or whatever, or maybe you only send one super cop and it does all the hidden dice rolls in the background. They go out, they're off the roster while they're on dispatch. It will resolve and it runs the gamut, right? Sometimes they're false alarms, so it's an absolute waste of time. Often you're just going to apprehend, bad guy caught, officers unharmed, and everyone gets plus 10 professionalism, so that's how they scale up. But again, if you're sending out rookies understaffed and they don't solve it, the worst case scenario, people get killed, officers actually die, and you have to have funerals and all this sort of stuff. But more commonly, they'll just lose professionalism. So you can accidentally create a death spiral if you don't look after your staff properly. So, pairing off rookies with jet hero cops, this is the sort of consideration that you'll start thinking about. But yeah, that should give you a bit of an idea. I don't want to give away the story because it goes places. Replayability is, I could say limited, even though I've restarted this game X times, but a lot of the call-outs are the same. It's not like it's a procedural shuffle up or anything like that, and some of them I know are like, that's a false alarm because I find it gives me a chuckle, right? So I know just to not respond to it or maybe just send out one cop or something like that. But this is through the perspective of someone who's put dozens of hours into it, who's played it multiple times. And again, if you pick it up for $5, that's not something I'd worry about. But yeah, the story twists and turns, different mechanics get added in. It will squeeze you, it will put you in a corner and make you think about your decisions, which is good. I don't really like decision type RPG games that are on rails. You just pick the good decision and that's it, or the bad decision. You never really think about it or engage with the game. This is good. It gets you thinking. Who's the real good guys, bad guys? How do you balance the scales in it? It's all a bit grey. So yeah, check it out. I highly recommend it. I only was going to go back and, record an hour of footage, but I've already put many hours in and I think I'm having another playthrough of this, to be honest, because I just enjoy it personally so much. I have the second game. I haven't really played it. I can't speak to it. I like Rebel Cops. It's very different and it's another spin-off, but maybe if you're splurging, you pick up all three of them since they're all on deep sale back to back to back. Anyway, team, I just leave it there for the time being and I'll catch you guys on the next one.